Is it a good thing or a bad thing when multiple properties come for sale on the same street or building? Here's what you need to keep in mind. Let's start with the good. The good thing is you can capitalize on the better value and the more options to choose from. So whenever you're looking for a property to buy and there's multiple properties on that same street or in that same area or condo building that are similar, this gives you more options to be able to choose from and also be able to negotiate the better price and terms in a deal. Whenever properties are for sale at the same time, sellers are actually competing to fight for you as a buyer, and this can give you as a buyer a better deal. The negatives are the questions that people have as to why everybody's selling at the same time. So buyers tend to think that when properties come up for sale at the same time, or there's multiple type of properties that are for sale on the same street or building, that something's wrong with that building or with the houses on that street. There might also be the concern from buyers that there might be ongoing crime happening in that area. Buyers tend to think that maybe sellers don't want to live in that area anymore, or there's maybe something wrong with the properties and they're not sharing that with the buyers. So this can really be an obstacle that sellers have to deal with and then might have to convince people with the price because of it. So that's going to be an obstacle that sellers have to deal with when they're trying to sell these properties and try and convince buyers that there's nothing wrong with the homes and that it may just be a coincidence. So whenever that's happening and buyers have these type of thoughts going into a property, now it's an uphill battle for the sellers to be able to convince the buyers that those type of situations are not in fact happening and that the property is completely fine and it's safe. So these are going to be consistent things that sellers have to negotiate now with the buyer for and try and land on the right price regardless of what they're thinking. And there could actually be something wrong with the homes, the way that they were built from the builder. These can be things that you can check for as a buyer to make sure that there's nothing wrong, but it is very true that if a certain builder doesn't have the reputation to be able to build good homes or condos, that maybe it is true that there's something wrong with the property. And this is something that now sellers have an obstacle of because of the fact that maybe it's well known in an area that those type of homes are not built well, or there are things that are consistently wrong with the properties for leaks, the way they're built, just common issues for maybe foundation. These are things that word of mouth can carry to other buyers and have attached to that property for ongoing years. So there could be bad reasons for being a buyer and a seller in these scenarios, but the main thing that you have to keep in mind is that as long as you can prove as a seller that there's nothing wrong with the property, or as a buyer that there is nothing wrong with the property through home inspections or due diligence on the background, then you can actually come to a conclusion that maybe if you can land on the right price, that this can actually be a deal that you can be okay with. So regardless of what side you're on, it's important that you get or give all the required answers in order to land on the right price. Just keep in mind that when you're the buyer buying the property, if you later on have to sell that same property, and this continues to now be something that you have to deal with as a seller, that you take that into consideration when you're buying the property at that time and be ready for it when it's time to sell that same property.